Dạ cái bên này cái sono nó bị mất cái tiếng ở đâu rồi á. Có tìm Okay, hello everyone. It looks like it's echoing. Unmute yourself and talk to me.
It's echoing. Cynthia, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear echoing.
Echoing, right? Echoing. Okay, let me see.
Someone's calling.
Chỗ này là mình phải mute đúng không em? Unmute đúng không? Is it okay now, everyone?
Yeah.
Chị Cynthia, just respond to me. Is it no more echoing? It's still there. Come on.
This is good.
Linda, he doesn't want to move. I want you to move.
Move.
We need only one chair. We move this one out so Linda have more space. Okay. Here. So how you feel after that 1 mile walking?
I wish we could do it every day.
Your dream come true if you want to. Hey, Anna, do that every day. I think this is a good thing to do every day, though. It's really good to help our cellular to stay young forever. Okay. All right. So I just want to say hi to everyone on Zoom. Thank you for joining. If you have any question, you can always stop me to ask question, and everyone here, you can do the same. Please ask me question because today we will over something a little bit complicated. I spent a lot of time preparing today's lecture because I want to find the best way, the easiest way to explain it so it's not confusing. Because I don't want to go over it again and again. So I try to find the best way to do it. All right. So hello everyone again.
Hello.
It's good to see you all. Welcome back. Last week we talked about loan estimate, closing disclosure. Today we will talk about settlement statement. And settlement statement, you normally see the settlement statement at the very end of the transaction, of the real estate transaction. You don't see it at the beginning. At the beginning, you see the loan estimate. And then later on, when you lock your rates, when you get your loan, like almost at the end of the transaction, you see the closing disclosure. And you will see the loan estimate when you are going to sign loan document. The settlement statement is come out at the very end. The buyer or the borrower who do refinance. So people who purchase a house, they get a loan. They see the settlement statement before they sign the loan document, the final loan document. For people who do refinance, they will see the settlement statement before they sign the final loan document as well. Okay? And let's take a look at what's going on. The keyboard right here. I'm sorry. Okay. So the settlement statement provides the details of all the fees and charges that the borrower must pay based on the closing disclosure. So I'm reading out the definition of the settlement statement. So the settlement statement will show all the fees, all the charges that based on the closing disclosure. So not only the borrower seeing the closing disclosure and when they receive the settlement statement, they will see a lot of numbers. Almost all the number in the closing disclosure show up in the settlement statement. Okay. Settlement statement is prepared by escrow officer. Remember this. We talk about loan estimate and closing disclosure, and those documents are prepared by lenders or mortgage brokers. But the settlement statement is prepared by the escrow officer at the very end, almost at the end of the transaction. Okay? Hello, hi Jose, new haircut, looks so cool.
Yeah, thank you.
I like it. Before I talk about the settlement statement, I want to talk about property tax. Okay, in the settlement statement, escrow officer collecting property tax. So, but property tax is one thing that sometimes get complicated to explain. Sometimes it's really confusing. So I would like to talk about this before I show you how the settlement statement looks like. Okay. So the first question is, what is property tax? Property tax. Okay, who pay property tax? If you own real property, you are responsible to pay property tax. Government use property tax to pay for public services, schools, libraries, roads, parks, and so on. And the property tax amount is based on the asset value of the home or the property, based on the value of the property. What is real property? Because if you own real property, you are responsible to pay for your property tax. But what is the definition of real property? We all know personal property is the TV, the computer, your phone,
Furnitures.
That's your personal property. Real properties is the land, or anything attached to the land is real property. For example, give me some example. House,
Condominium.
commercial
Townhouses,
building,
yeah.
they are real property. But mobile home is what? Personal
Personal
property.
property.
Mobile home is like a car. They are personal property. Okay. What happens if you don't pay property tax? Okay. All states, including California, have a process that allows tax authorities to sell a home to collect delinquent property tax. That means the homeowner might lose their house if they don't pay property tax.
Correct.
So always pay property tax. When do we pay property tax? This is where it gets complicated. When do we pay property tax? We pay property tax every 6 months, meaning we pay property tax twice a year. And the first installment due date is November 1st, and the second due date is February 1st. Okay. Wait, you see, the first installment is November, and the second installment is February. Wait a minute. Did you see the fiscal year? It kind of odd. the fiscal year for property tax starting from July 1st, not January. So the first installment is from July 1st to December 31st. So for the current fiscal property tax year right now, the first installment due date is November 1st, 2021. So somebody writing a check on November 1st, 2021, they pay their property tax for July 1st, 2021 all the way to December 31st, 2021. That's the first installment, paying for that 6 months. As you see, they pay their property tax at the very end of their 6 months. Because the fiscal year starts July the 1st, that's the first installment due is November, like almost at the end of the 6 months. And then the second installment, February 1st, is the due date. But you can also see that there is a delinquent at the. You see the table on the screen. It's delinquent. So for the first installment, the due date is November 1st, and if you don't pay your property tax by December 10, then you are delinquent on your property tax payment. And of course, when you are delinquent, you have to pay penalty and a lot of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to miss that payment. And the second installment due date is February 1st, and if you don't pay your property tax by April 10, that is when you are delinquent on your payment. So also, when you pay your property tax for the second installment, you're paying for the period from January 1st of 2022 to June 30th of 2022. So you also see that your due date is also toward the end of the 6 months, right? Because you have until April 10, okay? So try to pay your property tax before April 1st, that you don't forget, okay? Why do we talk about this? We want to, oh, you have a question?
Yes. They say for the April 10th for this year, it will be Sunday. So if it closing on April 11th, so it's still delinquent?
I don't want to answer this question, but I just don't see anywhere it's saying that if it's Sunday you can pay on Monday. No, I think as soon as you hit April 10 and you don't pay, you get delinquent.
Okay.
So do not count on a weekend. Just pay before that then.
So if it's a Sunday, just make sure you pay it that Thursday, Friday.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So to me, the best way to do it, try to pay at the end of March, so you don't miss the payment, because sometimes the mail takes time to get there, right? So try. If you pay, one time I helped my client to pay the payment because tomorrow is the deadline, right? So I use the online system to pay the service fee, online service fees. But anyway, at least he got to pay it right away. Okay. Any question before we move in on?
Yeah, if you're delayed on property taxes, and of course you're delinquent, does it affect your credit?
Of course, it get into your credit report.
It does?
It
Okay.
show.
Because it's not a revolving credit like cards and all that stuff.
Tax lien go onto your credit report. Yes. Normally lender make you pay it before they give you the loan.
Okay.
So you can never get away from property tax.
Okay.
You can also cannot sell a house.
When you sell the house, you have to pay off all the tax lien before you get out of the house. Good questions. Very good questions. Okay, now I'm introduced to you a very beautiful chart. It's called settlement statements. And everyone who go through a transaction of mortgage will see this at the very end when they sign a loan document. It's called settlement statement. And I'm showing you the final statement because it's a final statement, so I have to white out a few things so I can explain things easier for you. Okay, if I show all the number, it's harder for me to explain. It's going to be taking so much time, and it's confusing. So when we read chart, when we read table, we want to read across and then down. So across, you see me highlight green, yellow, and cyan color, right? Each color is one column that I want to pay attention to. So the first column is seller column. The second column is the description column. And the third column is the buyer column. The seller column is really simple. I don't even want to go over it because it's just like a few numbers. I don't want to confuse you. And if you understand how to read the buyer column, you will definitely know how to read the seller column. So we will ignore the seller column for now. We're going to pay attention to the description column, that's the middle one, and the buyer columns. And the description column is just words describing what on the line. For example, you see, okay, on the buyer columns, you see underneath there are debit columns and credit columns. Do you all see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you see it, right? And let's
Are
take a look.
Are you sharing this to the Zoom?
People on the Zoom, do you see my screen?
Yes. Yeah, I can see the paper with all the highlighted colors.
Okay.
Yes, I can see.
Awesome. And you follow me, right? Do you?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
So do speak up and ask question when I lose you, okay? It can get confused, okay? Now we look at the debit column. I had all the number in the debit column in the purple colors, beautiful colors, right? I picked very nice color, purple and pink. Pink is credits column. Okay, and you see, what is the first number you see in the beautiful purple debit column? Shout out. Can you see, Josh? What the first number in the debit column that you see under buyer? Josh.
One second, let me zoom in on it.
Oh, you can see. Oh, zoom it in.
It's small.
Sale price.
That's a description. How about the debit column? The sale
Oh,
price.
440,000.
Awesome. Okay, so you guys need to pay attention because I will pick one of you and ask question because I want you to understand. So 440,000 under the debit column. When you want to know what is this amount, then you go to the middle column where it says description. You say, oh, this is sale price. You see that? That's the sale price, obviously. So this buyers, she is purchasing a 440,000 properties, and this is a brand new home. It's from the builder. Okay, so I don't want to go to every single number now yet. I will do later. Right now, I want you to understand the whole big picture of this settlement statement. This is more important than the every number, but I will explain every single number later on. Okay? I want you to go all the way down. You see 2 pages of the settlement statement. You see page number 2. Jose, I'm going to ask you this time. Look at the debit column with all the purple numbers. The last number in that column. Read me the very last number in the second page. Read it to me.
$453,353.
Read it louder and slow so people can hear you.
$453,316.65.
Okay, good. So, Jose, look in the middle column to see what is that number. The description of that number.
That is the subtotals.
That's the subtotal. So Jose, just look at the very last number on the second page under the debit column of the buyer column, and that is the subtotals. And how do we calculate that subtotal? We add all the purple color, all of them, including the purchase price, 440,000, and all the number that I highlight purple, and that is the total. Us the total number, all the debit column. So you get it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now moving on to the credit column. Okay, Alex, can you read me the first number you see in the credit column
On page 2
on page 1,
or page 1? 2,500.
2,500. And what is that number?
That's a deposit.
That's the deposit. So you go to the description, you find out what that 2,500. So the 2,500 is the initial deposit, by the way. So when a buyer make an offer and then the seller agreed to sell the home, at the moment the seller signed the contract agreeing to sell the home, the buyer have 3 days to bring in the initial deposit to tell the seller, I am serious, I want to buy the property. So the 2,500 is the deposit that the buyer brought in to the title company to show the seller, here's my money. And the title and the escrow company is the one who hold the money, not the seller. Okay. And Linda, can you read me the second number you see in the pink column under buyer column under credit column? $330,000. And what is that number, Linda? Look across that line, see that the description, what does it say?
That's loan amount.
That's the loan amount. Okay, awesome, Linda. So 440,000 is the sale price and the 330 is the loan amount. So how much is the difference between the sale price and the loan amount, guys?
10,000.
110,000.
110,000.
110,000 is the down payment. Do you agree with me?
Yes.
So normally when you buy a home and you get a loan, whatever difference is your down payment. In this case, in your mind, you know the buyer will have to bring in at least 110,000 for down payment.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
That's right.
But remember when Jose read to us the subtotal number under the debit column, what is the number again, Jose?
$453,316.
553,000 something. Wait, the purchase price is 440, and then the subtotal in the debit column, the buyer will have to bring in 453,000 something. So there is a $13,000 difference in there. And what are the 13,000? What can that be? When you buy a car, you have to pay your sales tax. For example, your car is 30,000. You don't just pay 30,000. You pay maybe 33,000, including the sales tax. So you're in your receipt, you see 33,000 under the debit column that you pay for your car. So the same thing in the settlement statement. Beside the purchase price 440, the buyer will have to pay other costs. And that's why it's 453,000 something. So you can tell right away in your mind, oh, beside the purchase price 440,000, the buyer will have to pay more than $13,000 for closing costs. We will find out what are those closing costs later on. But right now we look at the big picture, okay? So in the credit column under the buyer column, I highlight all that number with the pink color, okay? And there is one number in the credit column. It's $634.67. Do you see that number? That's the last number under the credit column. And what is that number? This number is the property tax the seller paid to the buyer. Look, you will see, how do I know the seller paid this to the buyer and why the seller paid to the buyer? If you look now, I want you to look into the seller column and look under the debit column of the seller. You see $634.67. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
This amount is under the seller debit column. That means the seller has to pay. And this number go into the buyer credit column. That means the buyer will receive this amount. Then the question is, wait a minute, why the seller pay the buyer? Okay, look at the description of that. Can somebody read it to me? Josh, Read the description of that $634.67 for me. Read it. He not there? Joss. Okay, Jose, read loud for me.
Yes.
Oh, you.
I'm right here. You said 647,000.
$634.67. You see under the either the debit column under the seller or under the credit column under the buyer, you see the same number, right? Do you find that? The last number under the credit column under the buyer, the pink one, 634.67.
Where it says buyer total credit, buyer subtotal credit.
No. Okay, Josh, look under the buyer column
Yes.
and go to the credit column.
Okay.
You see three numbers
Oh.
highlighted pink.
It says county taxes 070121 to 9921
Awesome. Okay.
at $1,680 semi.
Okay, cool. Okay. So I hope everybody follow. Anyone you guys follow? I want to make sure you follow. Why the seller had to pay the buyer $634.67? Because look at this. This settlement statement created in September 9 or 10. Meaning, this is a final statement, meaning the client will get this house on September 9. The buyer will become the owner by September 9. So, assuming the buyer or the new owner will move into the house on September 10. So, at the moment, the new owner move into the property, she is responsible to pay for her property tax since September 10 all the way to the end of that tax period, the 6-month period. This, look at this, the seller paying the buyer the property tax from July the 1st to September 9 because at that time the seller still owned the property. Because he still owned the property, he is responsible to pay for property tax for that property during the time he's still there, from July 1st to September 9. By the time he moved out, the buyer or the new owner will be responsible for whatever left over. And remember, this is the first tax due installment and it's due in November. So the new owner is not paying property tax until November. Do you all agree with me? Mm-hmm. Do I lost anyone here? No, do I lose you? No? So, because the property tax due in November 1st, nobody have to pay property tax right now. Even the new owner or the old owner, nobody pay tax right now. The new owner is the one who will make the payment on November 1st. Because of that, the seller said, because you are going to make the payment, I'm going to pay you now for the portion that I'm using the property from July 1st to September 9. I'm going to be out of here, but this is my responsibility paying for the property tax for this period because I still in this property. I still own it until September 9. So here's $634. So that's why the new owner or the buyer in this case accepting that $634 and keep it there and wait until November 1st, she will write a check for the full 6 months of the first installment. Everybody on the Zoom, can you follow me on this one?
So he could have taken that amount from the sale price.
No, everything had to be on the paper.
Oh.
Because the escrow officer is the one who look at everything, say, this have to be paid, this have to be paid. So the escrow officer will say, oh, you have to pay this amount of property tax. And that's when the seller, okay, I'm paying it. You just cannot put that into the sale tax. You cannot. That cannot. Okay? So everything separately. So now that's why now the $634 become credits to the buyer or the new owner soon, right? So the subtotal, so the buyer subtotal credits, in order to calculate that, I put all the pink color, I add them up. Do you see that? What is the subtotal Linda, can you read me the subtotal, the total number of the credit column from the buyers section?
$333,134
Dollars.
and 67 cents.
Yeah. So I add all the credit together. I have the subtotal of the credits. So now, before Jose read to us the subtotal of the debit, that means how much money the buyer will have to bring into the table to get the house. And now Linda just read to me the total credits that the buyer already have at title company. So 2,500 initial deposit and the 330,000 loan amount and the credit from the property tax from the seller. To find the difference, how much the buyer have to bring in, we just take the debit subtotal minus the credit subtotal. Do you see that, everyone? So underneath you see, I say funds to close. The amount of money that the buyer have to bring in to close the transaction, we call it funds to close. That's the terminology that we use all the time. We will say, normally when we talk to each other, we ask each other, do you know what the funds to close for this buyer so that I can talk to them? Because at the end, when my team almost closed the transaction, I want to talk to my client, how much money they have to bring in. I'll ask them, can you tell me the funds to close? So I want to know the final number, right? Or I have to read it, the statement myself and find out the fund to close. I am the one who do the calculation. Actually, the escrow officer do all the work. So they will show us the fund to close. And I'll show you how to calculate the funds to close. And it just use the subtotal in the debit column minus the subtotal in the credit columns. And what is the number, Alex? After you take the subtotal debit minus the subtotal credit, what is the number?
120,181.
So that is the amount, $120,181.98 is the amount we call funds to close that the buyer have to go to the bank either to wire that amount to the title company or buy a cashier check to the title company. Any questions? You all get it? People on the Zoom, you follow? Hey guys, I need you guys to talk.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay. So you good? Everybody follow. Now,
Yes.
awesome. So we understand this, so we can go over this with our client. Can you do that? Can you explain this? If your brothers and sister buying a home and they bring this over to you, can you explain everything on this page? Can you do that? Yes, you can. But I want...
It would be my pleasure.
It will be your pleasure. Ah, that's so nice. Okay.
MC, are you able to hear me now?
Yes, of course.
Okay, good.
Oh, Andres, you here. I didn't know. I didn't pick up.
Yeah, no, my microphone wasn't working before, but I just got it working.
Okay, cool. Question.
Well, since we're closing it on September 9th, right? And the responsibility of the seller for the taxes, which is $634.67. That's already accounted for. What happens between September 10 to December 31st? Who's gonna be responsible for that?
The new owner.
I understand, but the bill normally comes around August, September.
But they have until December 10 to pay.
Correct.
In this case, it's kind of weird that the escrow officer didn't collect that amount right now
That's
at
what
closing.
I'm saying. I'm trying to find where it is.
Normally, the escrow officer will collect the rest of the property tax of that 6 months at this moment.
Exactly. I mean, that's.
But
what-
in this case, they did not. They leave it out. I don't know why. They leave it out, okay?
Okay.
But anyway, the buyer or the new owner will have to pay it at some point in November or December.
Correct.
But good question, Alex. So now, I will go to every single number on the settlement statement. So you want to sit back, relax, breathe, because that's a lot to talk about. But the good thing is you see the whole picture of how it works with the settlement statement, right? It's awesome. Okay, now we go line by line with the numbers. I have to bring it closer so I can read. It's too small. I'm sorry, it's too small. Okay, now we're gonna go back to the debit column. I'm gonna pick on you this time, Andres. Can you read to me the second number under the debit column, right? The first number is 440,000. And to find out what is that number, I read under the description, the 440,000 is the sale price. I want you to read me the second number under the debit column. What is that number, Andre?
Second number in the debit column?
Yes.
$107.80.
Okay. And can you read the description of that number?
It is under proration adjustments.
Yeah.
Association dues on September 9th, 2021 to October 1st, 2021 at $147 a month.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Andre. So this amount is the homeowner association paying for the periods of September 9th to October 1st. The buyer will move into the home, become the new owner on September 9th. And remember, homeowner association, we pay month by month. Every month we have to pay it. In this case, the owner, the seller already paid the month of September. Do you agree? Because he's still there in September. He already paid it. So now, and he paid $147 per month for HOA. But he's gonna move out. So that means from September 9th to October 1st is no longer the seller responsibility. It's now the buyer responsibility. And because the buyer will have to pay that amount from September 9th to October 1st to the seller. So he paid to the seller $107.80. That's why you see that amount show up in the debit column of the buyer, but then it show up as the credit in the seller column. Do you see it? Because the seller already paid $147 before September, paying for the September. And he only used 1/3 of the September and he moved out. So the rest, he don't use it. So that's why the buyer is responsible for the rest of the month. So the buyer paying him from September 9th to October 1st, $107.
Yeah.
We all get it, right? Yeah. Now I'm going to the next number. Can someone on Zoom? Anyone want to read the third number for me? Cynthia, can you read for me the next number in the debit column? She's not there.
I can do it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the next number in the debit column is $870.10.
Okay. And
under loan charges. And that's loan charges to prepaid interest from September 9th to October 1st at $539.55 a day.
No, at $39.55.
Oh, I'm sorry, $39. That's a dollar sign. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. So this $870.10 is the prepaid interest from September 9th. Okay, at the moment, the lender fund the money. The lender collect interest. And in this case, the lender fund $330,000 on September 9th. And they start collecting interest from September 9th to October 1st. Why do they do that? Because they will have to collect whatever left in the month, so that afterward they can collect the whole month of payment later on. So in this case, at the moment, lender fund $330,000 loan amount. They collect $39.55 per day. interest on that 330,000 loan amount. And they collect the interest from September 9 to October 1st. Then the buyer or the new owner first mortgage payment after receiving a home is November 1st. Wait a minute. They pay interest from September 9 to October 1st. So they haven't paid interest from October 1st to November 1st. But why they pay the first mortgage payment in November 1st? Because when we rent a property, we pay our rent before we move in the house. We have to pay it in advance. But when we borrow mortgage, we pay the interest after we use it. So that's why the the new owner will pay her first mortgage payment on November 1st for her interest for October. Follow, everyone? Do I need to repeat this? Okay, let me do it again. Whenever we rent a home, for example, I rent a home and I said I'm gonna move in October 1st. Before I move in October 1st, I have to write a check to pay for my monthly rent. Do you agree with me on this one?
Yeah.
For when you rent, you pay in advance. But when you borrow a mortgage, you pay after you use it. That's why the client moved in the house in September, but in September she paid for her interest already. But then supposedly she had to pay her first mortgage payment in October 1st, for October, supposedly. But no, she will pay that on November 1st for her October mortgage. Because this is a mortgage, the interest will be paid after you use it. So instead of paying the first mortgage payment on October 1st, she paying the first mortgage payment in November 1st. You will see that all the time. Whenever your client moving in October, the first mortgage payment will be December, not November. You see, it's only, you see like 2 months different. But it's actually everything covered. Some people say, do loan with me, you get 2 months free of mortgage. That is not true. Nothing is free at all in America, right? So nobody get anything free, but it's how it works. It just makes people feel like I don't have to pay mortgage in October, but yes you do. You pay in November. You paying for the October, okay? So they collect the amount of $870 for the rest of the month of September, but then their first payment will collect the whole entire month of October and the payment due in November 1st. Okay? The next number is, I'm going to read this fast because this number that already showed up in the loan estimate and the closing disclosure we talked about in the previous lesson. So the underwriting fee, $1,495, and the origination fee, $5,775. Those numbers showed up in the closing disclosure. And the $825, the description of $825 is, okay, I want somebody to read this for me. You see the $825, everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. Linda, can you read me the description of $825? Can you see it? Or it's too small for you to read it?
0.25% of loan amount points.
Okay, thank you, Linda. It's a quarter of 0.25 is a quarter of the loan amount. But what is that point? That's the discount point. Remember, the discount point is the amount of money that you pay to the lender to get lower interest rate. And in this case, the client pay $825 to get a good interest rate. Okay, so that's the discount point. And underneath, where you see there, underneath that discount point, there are two rows underneath. There's no number. Why is that? I want Jose to read me the description right underneath the discount point. What is the first description?
The appraisal fee to AXIX Appraisal Management, POCB $790.
Okay, good. So in the closing disclosure, we show $1,000 appraisal fee. But here we don't see it under the debit column because the buyer paying the appraisal fee already. Before the appraiser go to the house to do the inspection, the appraisal company, in this case, named IX, Appraisal Management Company, they only collect the money from the buyer credit cards before they go out to do inspection. Because they collected already, if they put it here, that means they collected twice. That's why we cannot put it there. We have to remove it from the debit column. But you see, POC, B stand for what? POC, pay outside of closing. POC, pay outside of closing by borrower. B, borrower, right? Pay outside of closing by borrower. Okay. So now you understand how to read something in the description. You see?
Yes.
Good job.
Closing.
Whoever talking, read me the next the next line. Is it Andres or Josh? Read me the next line.
It's me. I just have one question. So the one before this one, the 0.25%. Oh, that's a quarter of a point.
A quarter of a point.
Quarter of a point. Okay. And so they paid $825 to lower their interest rate by a quarter of a point.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yes. Good job. Okay. So read me the next one.
Then the next one is $7.
Read the description column.
Credit report to Advantage Credit Inc. of CO.
And then POC what?
And then POC B $32.
Okay, same thing. We always have to run credit report before we submit the loan. And we only collect the credit report fee in advance. So that means the buyer or the borrower, in this case, paid the credit report fees already. Pay outside of closing. Therefore, we don't put it under debit anymore, because if we do put it there, then we collect the same amount twice. And that's not fair. So we have to move it to the description, telling everybody this buyer is paying this amount but already pay it to the appraisal company named Advantage Credits Company. You see that? It's very clear. Nowadays, everything on paper, nothing hiding, everything black and white. Okay? And then moving down to the next debit number, it's $7.10. That's the flood certification and tax service fee, $83. All this number is showing up in the closing disclosure, and we talk about this very detailed in the last section in the closing disclosure section. And then underneath we have $667 owner title policy. If you read the whole entire thing, it's really long, like new home, Rage Eagle owner, but it is the owner title policy insurance. I think I explained this owner title policy in the closing disclosure section, but I just kind of review a little bit. Owner title policy is there. The buyer, or in this case, the borrower, paying for this insurance to protect the buyer. The title company will search to see if the seller have any debts or liens on the property. If the seller have any liens or debts on the property, the seller will have to pay it off before the seller transfer title to the buyer, who become the new owner. For example, if the home have the tax lien, the property tax lien on the house, the title company will say, "Hey seller, you have to pay this off before you can be out of the title and give this home to the new buyer, the new owner." So the owner title policy is really important in every sales transaction. Never ever leave it out. It's so funny. It is optional. showing, this owner title policy amount of money is showing on the closing disclosure as optional. That means the seller have an option to not purchasing that. But in this case, the buyer paying for it. Because it's in a different county, but in Santa Clara County, the seller paying for this amount of money. Never let the seller not paying or buying this policy for your buyer. You have to protect your buyer. Even you are a listing agent or you are a selling agent, you want to see the owner title policy there. It protects the new owner. To make sure when the seller walk out of the property, he had no lien or debts on the home. Okay? You want to see that there all the time. Okay. Next, it's called new home rate ALTA loan. So that it's another insurance 20 cents. Okay? And then moving on the next page, we have $10.50 as recording service fee to the title company. This amount doesn't show up in the closing disclosure, but it shows up here. It's only $10. It's completely fine because whatever amount showing up in the closing disclosure, we have 10% tolerance. For example, if we disclose whatever on the closing disclosure, on the settlement statement, we can only go up by more than 10%. Cannot be more than 10. We have the tolerance of 10% more. So $10 is nothing. But if it's over 10%, that's not going to work. There's a tolerance of only 10% for the title and escrow fee, 10% tolerance. But for the lender fee, no tolerance. Lender fee, completely no tolerance. Okay? So the next one is the escrow fee, because I look at this every day so I know what it is. So you see new home rate escrow fee $1,431. And then underneath there $32, $89, $26, that's all recording fee. We all know recording fee, right? When we transfer title, the new owner name will be recorded on title at the county. And in the closing disclosure, the recording fee show over $400 and one number. But in here, it breaks down into 3 different numbers and the total is less than 400, so it's completely fine. So in the closing disclosure, most of the time you see a bigger number than the settlement statement because the title company or escrow company or even as a mortgage broker, we always disclose a very conservative number because we don't want to have any problem at the end. We want to disclose more than what the client has to pay. So a lot of time, clients come to being asked about all the number in the disclosure. I said those are estimated number, but that is going to be the number that you don't pay more than that. That's the maximum amount you have to pay. But the final number will come out when you're about to sign your loan document. So right now, the closing disclosure or loan estimate just an idea of how much you have to pay, and that's the maximum. And then at the very end, you have the settlement statement where it's more final numbers. So this is final numbers, okay? And then underneath the recording fee, there is a county documentary transfer tax of $484. This show on the closing disclosure that we talked about in the last lesson. And this amount paid for the county because there is transfer between the seller to the new owner. Whenever there is a change in title, there is transfer tax. Do you agree with me? Whenever there is a change in ownership, there is a transfer tax paid to the county. Okay? And then the next one is miscellaneous. So miscellaneous, in this case, association due $147. They collect the October Homeowner Association. They collecting October HOA right here at closing. Okay, for the month of October. And this one doesn't show on the closing disclosure, but that's fine. Then the transfer fee to the First Service Residential California. So I think First Service Residential California is the builder name. And they do have to do some kind of transfer fee, and they charge $90. And homeowner insurance premium, $813. It's a 12-month home insurance. Whenever the new owner move in the home, they have to buy a whole full year of home insurance, and that have to be collected at closing, right now. And this number show in the closing disclosure, I think. And then the lot report fee, $40, and tax disclosure, $37. All that fee is paying to, I think, because of the all those fees are paying for the new property. Okay, so I go through all the number already to make you feel comfortable with what you are paying for, because people, when they understand what they are paying for, they feel confidence, feel comfortable, and willing to move forward. So we all want to learn how to read this so that we can help other people, our families, or anyone we know that they are in the process of buying a home or doing a mortgage. We can help them to explain every single number in here. Any question? You got it, right? I'm so glad you do. I'm tired. Okay, now let's celebrate. Let's celebrate. We have a test. Yay! We have a test, everyone.
When you gonna stop playing?
Another one.
Okay. The first one. Who prepared the settlement statement? You can just shout out. Just tell
Police.
me. No! You disappoint me.
Title company.
Escrow officer. Escrow officer, the one who prepared. Alex, you failed.
I want to laugh.
I know he make a joke. He know better than anyone. So who prepared the settlement statement is escrow officer. You know, I create a quiz. I make it really silly so that you can laugh. Okay. Can you read me the second question, Joss?
Does the settlement statement have all the numbers you see in the closing disclosure?
And what's your answer?
Oh man. Yes.
Yes, that's right, Joss. Yay! Yes, awesome. You guys good. You guys passed the test. You guys all get 100%, except Alex. Okay. Do we still have time? What time is it? Oh, it passed the time. So we'll do this next time. Because this, do you want to do it now? It's gonna take at least half an hour, or you want to do it next time?
It's you.
Like next time, okay? Because the notes is interesting. We can do it next time. Want to do it next time? Okay. Because we have to read almost line by line.
Okay.
Because I don't want to say, here, look at this one, look at that one. I want you guys really read with me. When you read one time,